Always from the heart of the city, and now on demand 24/7 on the CHFI website. This is the soundtrack to accompany Late Summer Sunshine. And I'm Don Jackson, around the world on the internet. I spent the entire day yesterday and part of today outside in the warm late summer sun, painting the exterior of our house and an elderly neighbor's. I can't tell you how many times I would turn my face up to the warm rays. It may have been work that I was involved in, but something about that sun made my spirit feel lightened and invigorated at the same time. We're into the sun this hour with Lovers and Other Strangers from iTunes and CHFI.com. RyanDan, like the sun, and Elton John also in the sun, in your song. I'm Don Jackson with Lovers and Other Strangers from iTunes and CHFI.com. Guy Murchie in Music of the Spheres, published by Houghton Mifflin, wrote, "When a man feels weary or depressed or in pain, just stepping into clear sunshine does something to him. I have felt it often. Sunshine is manifestly more than heat and light and invisible rays, even as the whole can be greater than the sum of the parts. It is something subtler, nearer the spiritual, something close to the quick of life itself. It seems to me that the sun has in some degree the quality of a patriarchal blessing, a bestowal of that feeling of security that comes through the love of dear parents still living in the old family homestead where one was born and raised. For the sun is truly the birthstead of the whole earth." An excerpt from Music of the Spheres, published by Houghton Mifflin. Lovers and Other Strangers from iTunes and CHFI.com. George Michael, Amazing, and Beyonce with Halo. I'm Don Jackson with Lovers and Other Strangers from iTunes and CHFI.com. William Houseman from House Beautiful wrote, "Even the rising sun may be a personal possession. If the sunlight enters a certain window, you remember it entering, then that is where it is supposed to enter. By clear inference, the sun therefore rises where it's supposed to. And for the best of all reasons, you're at home." We're in the sun this hour with Lovers and Other Strangers from iTunes and CHFI.com. Kelly Rowland with Unity. Hall & Oates and Sara Smile and Natasha Bedingfield, Unwritten. I'm Don Jackson with Lovers and Other Strangers from iTunes and CHFI.com. The Labor Day long weekend has always been a signal to me that summer's days are numbered. Arthur Vanderbilt, in Golden Days, published by Bantam, saw other signals as well, and I quote, "There's no word for end of summer madness," wrote E.B. White, "but the human spirit picks up the first of its approach. We see it in the slant of the sunlight, in the autumnal blue of the bay. We hear it in the cricket chorus from the salt meadows. 6 weeks till frost. 6 weeks till frost." Suddenly, each day becomes precious, something to be hoarded, like candy in a child's pocket. Arthur Vanderbilt, from Golden Days, published by Bantam. I'm Don Jackson from iTunes and CHFI.com. David Cook with The Time of My Life and Josh Groban, Awake. I'm Don Jackson with Lovers and Other Strangers from iTunes and CHFI.com. Victor Hugo in Les Mis and translated by Norman Denny, published by the Folio Society, wrote, "Nothing is more pleasant than greenery washed by the rain and dried by the sun into cleanliness and warmth. Gardens and meadows with moisture at their roots and sunshine on their blossoms become jars of incense, each giving out its scent. The world smiles and bestows itself, and we feel a gentle intoxication. The sun teaches men to endure." Victor Hugo, endure, yes, a good lesson as winter looms over the distant horizon. John Berger, in Ways of Seeing, published by Viking Penguin, wrote, "The relation between what we see and what we know is never settled. Each evening we see the sunset. We know that the earth is turning away from it. Yet knowledge, the explanation, never quite fits the sight." Lovers and Other Strangers from iTunes and CHFI.com. Bobby Hebb and Sonny, Al Stewart at the End of the Day, and Van Morrison, Have I Told You Lately? I'm Don Jackson with Lovers and Other Strangers from iTunes and CHFI.com. Joyce Hiffler in the Rochester, New York Democrat and Chronicle wrote, "The sound time makes. Little sounds that are imperceptible unless we are as quiet as our own breathing. The ticking of the clock, the cardinal's call, the rivulets of rainfall singing through the drains. We must be very quiet to hear such sounds, and other sounds, voices, songs, thoughts. To become still enough to catch the muted sounds will also slow the heartbeat, lower the blood pressure, order the thoughts, and make everything more livable, more workable, and eventually more enjoyable." Unquote. And Max Lucado from The Great House of God, published by Word, wrote, "Next time a sunrise steals your breath, or a meadow of flowers leaves you speechless, remain that way. Say nothing, and listen as heaven whispers, 'Do you like it? I did it just for you.'" Lovers and Other Strangers from iTunes and CHFI.com. I hope you will tell all your friends about Lovers and Other Strangers from iTunes and CHFI.com. Good night, sweet dreams. I'm Don Jackson.